Mike's music method. Here we are, guys, y'all. Number 2 in the melody writing, analyzing series. Today we're going to take that simple concept of scale degrees that I discussed in the first melody writing episode, and we are going to apply it to The Speed of the Sound of Loneliness by John Prine. And I promise I'm not going to overload it with theory. I'm going to make it applicable. But also, this is a great video for singers. I mentioned this in a previous video, like how I practice singing. If you're a singer, then this is going to be a way more important element of the video. So I know that the title might be misleading, but this is definitely for singers. This is how I go from singing something kind of like to bringing it up to good. And so yeah, we have the singing aspect that we'll break down. We have the melody writing aspect and scale degrees that we're going to break down, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. So let's just jump right in. Very quick shout out to all my patrons. Thank you so much. If you haven't been donating, please consider if you're getting value from these videos. And also a shout out to All Terrain Family. I'll link to his channel up here. The value he provided me was he thanked me for the great content, and he gave me some lighting tips. So I've only have them a little bit in effect, but I already feel like you can see me more clearly. So how about that value for value? Someone giving me professional lighting tips at no charge. Thank you, man. All right, in this song, we are in the key of G. So you can download the tab at my website. I have the chords, or the tab is up on top. Well, we have the chords, and then the tab, and then underneath that is the vocal melody. So you notice the song is in G. We got our big G chord. And check this out. I tabbed out the melody. Now I put it in a different octave, but that's only because I wanted to cut through a little bit more instead of doing it low. It just doesn't sound as good on the guitar. But he's not singing it that high. He's an octave lower. You come home late and you come home early. So for the singers, let's start there. That's what I'll do. I'll do that 100 times until my brain gets it. I'll play it on the guitar, then get rid of the crutch and just try to sing it a cappella until every note of that melody is in there, not just like, you come home late and you come home early. Often when there's a quick passage, we get lazy and we're not precise about what those notes are in between as singers. So, you come home late and you come home late and you come home early. You come home late and you come home early. You come home late and you come home early. So I'm making sure I'm very exact until I can sing it a cappella. You come home late and you come home early. Then with the chord, you come home late and you come home early. It changes to the C there. So that's the singing part. You cannot overdo it. Do that again and again and again until the melody is second nature. You got every little note. Sometimes slowing it down is really helpful. You come home late and you come home. So here my voice is leading, and then I'm checking it against the guitar. Early. So I'm making sure all my pitches are right where they need to be. No laziness. Now from the melody writing aspect, let's look at scale degrees. Then we'll do the second layer, which is add the chords to our thinking as well. So in that first phrase, I wrote down all of them. I would say what's important is the cadence, right? So we got on the third scale degree, we're in the key of G. So again, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. If you're unfamiliar with G, look that up in this position. I can tab it out for you here too, but I'm not gonna keep going over it. So just make sure you have it all down. Pause the video, do that. So G is the 1. You can also make a cheat sheet where G is the 1, A is the 2, B is the 3. So have that written down and you can use that as a reference point. But this melody is on 3, which is a stable tone, right? Because that's in that G chord. 1, 3, and 5 are stable. And he ends on a 6. So in the key of G, it's not really resolved. It's not dissonant, but a 6 is one of those, it's a question, not an answer, right? We talked about all that in the first video. Then the next melody, we have this. Hey, look at that. He resolved it. 6 was our question, 5 was our answer. So we had a little bit of a tense moment, not super tense, but then it was resolved onto a 5. Now 6 to 5 isn't, remember we talked about 1, 3, 5, 1 being the most home-like because 1 is a root, that is the G. The 5 still feels like an answer, but it's not the answer. So that's what we get at the beginning. And I would play that part on the guitar too and sing it a bunch, right? You come on big when you're feeling small. And one thing to note is a lot of the use of the 7th scale degree, which is that most kind of dissonant 1. That's the biggest question there is in our spectrum of, 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, 7. So there we got our question. Our 6 scale degrees of question. And there it's answered. We keep going. The third phrase is exactly the same as the first, which is also just good songwriting, right? You don't need a whole bunch of material. People want the earworm. They want to hear it again and again. So that third line is the same as the first. You come home, my guitar on. You come home straight and you come home curly. Remember, for your singers, you can't overdo it. Keep singing it. So that ended on the 6, exactly the same as the first line. And then check this out. This is great. Sometimes. See, I don't even know how to sing that part. Sometimes he goes to that low D. Sometimes you don't come home at all. And there he gives us the 1, which is super satisfying. So the skeletons, first phrase, end on the 6th scale degree, a question. Then it ended on 5 with an answer. Third one was the same as the first, ended on 6. And then the last time he gives us an answer, but it's an even more solid answer because it's the 1. And you can see the structure is already in place. Of course, there are way more elements to it than that. There's a rhythm, which makes it awesome. That's another overlooked factor we could talk a little bit about later. But the rhythm, they call it like the shape or the contour of the melody. Like if your melody's only like 3 notes, hard to make it sound cool. But if you're kind of like moseying around, then you have a peak where you go higher, you sing higher, and then kind of drop off. So the contour of a melody is also something that can make it really interesting and captivating, beautiful, effective, I guess. So let's go to the next part. Very similar. The chorus isn't much different in this song. It's actually, when you analyze it, it's starkly the same. So we got the chorus. So what in the world's come over you? Again, there's some different elements here. Where he starts the melody, the phrasing of it is a little bit different, but it does end on 6. And we keep going. What in heaven's name have you done? 6 to 5, that's the same as the verse so far. So far. Then we do the third line of the chorus. You've broken the speed of the sound. See, here I'm learning. I wasn't singing it that way. You've broken the speed of the sound of loneliness. 6. Now let's see what he does here. You're out there running just to be on the run. It's exactly the same, actually. Ends on 6, the question. Ends on 5, the answer. Ends on 6, the question. Ends on 1, the answer. I'd have to think about why they sound so different, though. I think it's just the phrasing and the rhythm of how he sings the verse for the chorus that makes it different. So this is a very simple example of how these scale degrees and these cadences make, I don't want to say they make sense, but you see how they're being played out in a song, whether or not John Prine thought about it. And again, I'm sure he didn't think about it. Like I said in the previous video, these good songwriters just intuit this idea because that's what good songs sound like. Remember that like your ear and playing always comes first. This theory stuff, it should be later. Sure, it can be helpful songwriting sometimes if you're stuck, but like for me, the theory is more just the joy of like, how does this work? Why does it work? It's like the fascination of what's happening. So by no means am I saying you should put theory first and always think about this stuff, but it can be helpful. Like I said, it can be helpful for us mortals who can't just like write an amazing, unbelievable melody just sitting around. You know, maybe thinking about this stuff can be helpful for us. Not all the time, but sometimes it can be. For those of you interested in the theory, even more so, we're going to keep going. So we're now going to take into account the chords. Where to start? Again, I have no idea what skill level you guys are all at, so it's hard to know. The song's in the key of G. If you pull up the G major scale, I'm not going to go into major scales right now, it's what we said at the beginning, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And if you build chords on all those scale degrees, like instead of just playing G, if I build a chord, and I'm not going to talk about building chords here either, but you get a G major. If I go to my second note, which is A, I get an A minor. And then I get a B minor on the F for the 3 chord. The 4th scale degree is a C. I build a chord in C major. 5th scale degree is D. So it follows the same scale degrees as in the melody, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But we're just building a chord on each one. 6 is minor, that's E minor. Then the F sharp diminished, don't worry about that one. And then we're back at 1, G. In this song, typical blues and folk fashion, he's given us the 1, 4, 5. G, C, D. And those are the only 4 major chords in a major key. The 1st scale degree is major, the 4th, and the 5th. And there's a billion songs written in the 1, 4, 5, and that's what Prine is doing. It doesn't get old. So take a look at this. We're in a G chord. If you wanted to memorize this stuff, you could. What I did, I minored in music in college, and I remember riding the bus with flashcards. So it was a lot of the different keys, and I memorized all the keys, the major keys with the sharps and the flats. And then I memorized what I find more important as a guitarist, to be a little bit honest, is knowing the notes in the chords. So I know a G chord is G, B, D. Very briefly, the way chords are built, you're always skipping a letter. So G, skip A, B, skip C, D. G, B, D is always how you spell a G chord. Now the G minor, it's still G, B, D, but it's G, B flat, D. And I'm not going to go into all that, how to build a major and a minor and a diminished chord. I'll do that in another video, or I'm sure plenty of people already have videos out on that. But in a G chord, the notes are G, B, D. That's the 1, the 3, and the 5. And remember, the 1, 3, and the 5 are what we talked about as being our home scale degrees. And that's interesting, they're home scale degrees because those are the 3 notes that are in our home chord, which is a G chord. So that's why it's G, B, and D always sound pleasant, because our home chord is G, B, and D. It's a G major, which has G, B, and D in it. All right, so he starts on the B. That's the 3rd scale degree. That's in the chord, right? So it starts on a nice sound. It's pleasant. That B is in the chord. And then he does a passing tone, right, on the 2nd scale degree. That A is not in the chord. Then he's on 1. Then we get a little dissonance with that 7th scale degree. It's beautiful, makes it dissonant, but then it's resolved down to the 6, which is a note E, right, if you're looking at your chart. But when he goes to that E, you might think, oh, it's a 6, it's really dissonant. But it's not all that dissonant because he goes to the C chord. A C chord, guess what? It has that E in it. The C has that 6th scale degree in it. So now things get a little weird because we're in the key of G and that 6 is a dissonant note, but it's not super dissonant or really out there because he moves to a C chord and that E is in the C chord. So yeah, it's still a bit of a question, but it's not an alarming question because the chord that he goes to has that note in it. So it sounds stable. If he stayed on the G, it would be way more unstable because the G doesn't have that 6th scale degree in it, right? That E isn't in it. So it'd sound like this. You come home late and you come home early. See how dissonant that 6 is against the G? You come home early. So now it's like a question, but not like a oh crap question. You know, the kind of question where you start to sweat. And then he keeps going. He goes to a D chord. And he starts on a 2. And guess what? That 2, that 2nd scale degree, is in the D chord. And it's an A. That's right there, the 3rd string. You come on, moves through a note. Big when you're feeling strong, small. And here he goes to the 5th scale degree, and he goes back to the G. And guess what? That 5th scale degree is in the G chord. Remember, 1, 3, and 5. So if you don't know theory, you might be getting lost. I know I'm like throwing numbers at you. I promise this isn't that hard. For anyone interested, I could do more like slow, drawn-out theory talks for you guys. If that's something you're interested in, let me know. But we started on G, we cadenced on the 6th scale degree. A C is one of those chords with the 6 in it. Then he goes to the 5 chord, just to give some variety, and he starts on that 2nd scale degree, which is in the 5 chord. You come on big when you're feeling, and then he gives the answer small, and he gives the answer back on the 1 chord. So you're noticing a pattern. So far, the questions have not been on the 1 chord, and the answers have been on the 1 chord. Not always the case, but pretty straightforward, very simple. We keep going. Same idea, right? You come home straight and you come home curly. 6th scale degree, he goes to the C chord, the 4 chord, because it has that 6th scale degree in it. Sometimes you don't, I'm singing wrong. Sometimes you don't come home at all. And then our big resolve, the 1 on the 1, right? He's singing the 1st scale degree, and he's going to the 1 chord for that really satisfying cadence. You can hear it. And I don't even think I need to talk about the chorus. It's the same exact thing. So what in the world's come over you to the C chord? What in heaven's name have you done? Yeah, it's the exact same thing. You've broken the speed of the sound of loneliness. Oh, here's a little different, because before when he went to the D, he was coming in on the 2 for the verse. But here he's coming in on the 7. It's still in the chord, but the 7's more dissonant in the key. You're out there running. You're out there running just to be on the run. That play between 7 and 1 is more pronounced in the chorus. And that is the song melody analysis. Again, not only for songwriting, but it is awesome for singing. Some people might have trouble even finding the melody on the guitar. Well, that's a sign that your ear isn't that great. So you're probably not singing the perfect note if you can't locate the perfect note on the guitar, right? It's easier with the guitar. This is like walking with a crutch or a wheelchair. Do, do. That's way easier than do, do, and finding it on your own. So if you can't find it on the guitar, hate to break it to you, but when you're singing to your friends and they say you're a great singer, if you're not able to find the note you're singing on a piano or a guitar, your friends might be lying to you, is what I'm trying to say. Your pitch might not be that great. Thanks for tuning in, and please comment below on this one. I want to know how you feel about this content. I think it's super helpful, like I said, especially for the singing, but I love analyzing melodies like this too and geek out on it. Was the pace too quick or too slow? Do you guys need more of these like chord and scale concepts broken down? Again, please comment. I'm catering the channel towards you guys, especially those of you who are supporting the channel. So let me know, and I will bring it. Mike's Music Method.